Today, I'm going to walk through exactly how I'm seeing to leverage TikTok Shop content across all channels for brand growth. This is a little bit different than previous talks that I've given, and I will tell you why. I think that there's a really interesting phenomenon happening right now with whitelisting. And if you think about TikTok Shop is really whitelisting on steroids. And again, I'm going to get into like all of these different ideas here as we go as well. If you guys don't know me, if you guys are watching this, this will probably be on YouTube after as well. So if you guys are watching this, my name is Jordan West. I'm the CEO and founder over at Social Commerce Club. I've owned a bunch of brands over the years, and I'm really obsessed with all things e-commerce growth. And right now, Social Commerce Club, I think that there's some really interesting things that we are seeing and ways that we are seeing things and some tools that we're using to make whitelisting easier. Saw a study yesterday, saw multiple studies yesterday from Meta when it comes to whitelisting. And I will go through this in some of the slides, but here's the TLDR of like why this actually matters for today is there were some split tests done in whitelisting where the click-through rate on whitelisted ads was 60% higher than regular ads, right? What does this mean exactly? Well, what it means is that whitelisting is like there's no doubt in my mind that whitelisting is way more effective. Also, some studies have shown that CPAs drop as high as 50% with whitelisted ads. Now, what is whitelisting, just in case anyone wants to know? Essentially, you're running ads of creators or influencers through their handle, right? You will see this. Big brands do this all the time. The problem is it's been really difficult to do in the past. And it's been a really difficult thing to do manually, right? It's one of those things that you have to do manually. I've used a different tool in the past to do it, but today I wanted to show you guys something new and something that I think will change everything and something that we're implementing at Social Commerce Club. And I want you guys to stick around for that. So let's just go through a couple of things here. I've got some nice slides. All right. Again, if you're here, obviously you understand why TikTok Shop matters right now, right? I was on a webinar yesterday that I was presenting on with Finaloop or Finaloop. I always call it Finaloop. With Finaloop, they're a big e-commerce accounting software. Someone that you guys should definitely go check out, by the way. Really, really like them. They were talking about, and I was also on with Triple Whale, and we're talking about where some of the budgets sit exactly. And right now, the majority still between 70 and 80% of e-com brands are spending on Meta. Well, the issue is that the cost per thousand impressions of the CPMs are going up substantially. We're seeing like 30% CPM growth over on Meta. Now, the opposite seems to be happening over on TikTok. I actually just shared a screenshot from yesterday, an account of somebody that we work with over at Social Commerce Club. They spent $3,500 and their return overall was like 55 grand. Just insane numbers, stuff that you would like never see over on Meta. Now, why is that? Again, a huge reason for this is the creators, right? It's all of the things that are happening with creators on the channel that really lead to this. And so it's all of the things that are happening there. And it's the fact that TikTok Shop is whitelisting on steroids. That is what you do. That is how you grow, right? So we're seeing massive engagement boost. We're seeing huge amount of CPA drop when we whitelist these ads onto other channels. So you guys all know, like, you're here because of TikTok Shop, right? You're watching this because you understand the insane opportunity that's over on TikTok Shop, right? But what I'm trying to say is that there is still a lot of room on some of these other channels. We're seeing massive growth also. So we're seeing CPM drops, I just want to say, on TikTok. So that comes straight from Triple Whale and all of the data that they have. Massive drops in CPMs over there. So something really to take a look at. Now, why is that? I think it's really a matter of like more people on TikTok, more people spending more time there, them opening up more ad inventory. As you probably know, if you're on TikTok, you see a lot of ads over there. So they're opening up even more ad inventory. So that's another big thing there. So this is why I'm obsessed with this centralized idea at Social Commerce Club. So much so that we are rarely taking on any clients at Social Commerce Club that don't work with us across all channels, because we really think that these creators sit at the middle of all of it, and TikTok Shop sits at the middle of all of it. Now, like let's use the example of the screenshot that I shared before, right? So 50,000 in sales, so it's about 1.5-ish million a month, right? I know for some of you bigger brands that are watching this, and a lot of you bigger brands do watch this, I see sometimes when I see the logos that come on here, I'm like, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate that you guys trust me with this stuff. But for a bigger brand, right, 1.5 million a month, adding 18 million a year, I mean, they're not going to say no to it, but it's not something, for billion-dollar brands, it's not something that's going to like massively move the needle. But let me tell you, using that content, so TikTok Shop is going to continue to grow, right? It is growing exponentially. We're still seeing higher growth rates than any of the other e-commerce platforms out there. When we look at Amazon comparatively, any of the platforms before, we're seeing massive growth, right? But there is still the vast majority of conversions are happening from Meta, right? And are happening on Meta because 3 point whatever billion people are on Meta, right? There's just there, and they own so many different properties. So we cannot ignore Meta just because TikTok Shop is super hot right now, right? We need to remember that there is Meta and there's YouTube, right? YouTube opened up a massive amount of inventory this year on Shorts, right? And maybe it was late last year, but they opened up this massive amount of inventory, right? So we've got all of this inventory to play with. We've got all of these eyeballs, and we've got incredible content over on TikTok Shop. This is why I'm obsessed with all of this, right? So we can get into this for a second. I mean, TikTok Shop essentials, right? Like I think we all understand. I wanted to just have a quick slide for people just to know, like, this is like the basics, right? We've got our in-feed product tags, great. Live selling is huge on TikTok. We're not going to get into that today, but I probably will do an entire session on how to live sell on TikTok because I think it's super fun. There are some days I wish that I was a TikTok creator because I feel like I would just be on for hours at a time doing live selling and talking about things kind of like I do here. But I just think it's so fun. Okay, let's get into this here. Okay, so here is what I wanted to tell everybody about, and I think it's super interesting. Again, I am... I advise Atif at Refundal, but I really wanted to open this up because I think it's very interesting what exactly he's building. And lots of the stuff that he's built there, him and I have talked about, I'm like, I think that this is sort of where everything is going. Now, the cool thing is, right, with this tool, essentially what you can do is you can actually pick up what people, so you can detect with social listening where people are tagging your product on TikTok Shop specifically. Now, the reason why I like the TikTok Shop content and why Refundal, I believe, is still the only one that actually does the social listening on TikTok Shop is, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the studio chat if I'm wrong on that, but what they are able to do at scale is actually listen to all of the content that's out there. And then you're able to filter that content by what you want. So let's say that it is by GMV, right? If we're like, okay, well, if we know that our piece of content does really well on TikTok Shop, right? Then it's probably going to do well across other channels. From there, we can actually find that person, we can find their content, and if they are on Meta, which of course all of them are on Meta, like in Instagram or some sort of way, we can one-click whitelist and ask them for their whitelisting approval straight within Refundal. It's like the most incredible thing. Previously at our agency, so this is something again that we're building out for our agency to be able to leverage this. I wanted to let you guys know because I think it's just an awesome opportunity. Basically, listen, whitelist, click to ask for permission right from there. And then you've got all the performance metrics right within all of this. And so what it ends up doing is unifying all of the marketing that you're doing across TikTok Shop, and you're not wasting this on TikTok Shop. Now at Social Commerce Club, we've been doing all of this manually for like the longest time. The reason why I wanted to show you guys this tool is because I think it's super simple for you guys to go and check out and to be able to use. It kind of makes all of this stuff really easy. If you guys have ever tried to whitelist before on Meta, it is a pain. Now, this does not solve YouTube whitelisting, just so you guys know. So what I recommend for YouTube whitelisting is just going and just using their link, right? So just go and ask them for their link. Sometimes though, people will also want, creators, influencers will actually want you to, they'll also want you to pay them a certain amount similar to TikTok Shop when you're running ads against their products. They'll still want you to run something to give them some sort of percentage. And so that's something, again, Refundal is a great example of this. This is something I'm going to be telling my team. Most of the clients we work with, we actually require that they use this software because There's so much social listening that we can do through this. But the cool thing that I'm trying to tell you guys about here is how you can then whitelist these ads across other platforms. Now, like I said before, some of the studies are insane. I'm actually just going to get up a Notion doc here that I have beside me so I can tell you some of the exact numbers. It is wild. Here's one that went across 40 plus campaigns in CPG. They had an 82% lower cost to drive incremental purchase intent with branded content / whitelisted ads were layered on top of standard ads. 82% lower cost, right? This to me is like the biggest opportunity to use all of this content that you're getting. I posted on Twitter yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw this. I posted on Twitter yesterday that I recently got somebody asking for $450 plus I think it was like $50 or $100 per hook for one piece of UGC. I'm like, on TikTok Shop, we just get this content, right? And it's win-win because they only win, right? The creator only wins when the brand wins. And that to me is the way to do this, right? When we can run really good affiliate models, this is the way to do it. But in the past, we have not been able to, right? Like the entire affiliate model really hasn't worked incredibly well over time, in my opinion. So this is where it is going to start to work. Let me just see here. Sorry, I actually had some questions here. I didn't realize I was in the wrong chat, just so you guys know. Yes, Sean, there's going to be a recap video if you miss anything. Absolutely. I'll probably put this onto YouTube afterwards. That seems to be really good and people seem to like those. Let me go a tiny bit more into some of these stats that I was able to get yesterday. So for any of the big brands out there, massive points on ad recall with these brand partnership ads in a huge way. There was another one that Meta did that saw 50% CPA, 50% CPA drop, and a 2.1 return on ad spend increase, which is just absolutely insane with whitelisted ads. So whitelisted ads to me, like this is the way to do this, right? We have, let me see if one of my other slides has this. So this is the really, really interesting thing here, right? Is all of these case studies are seeing massive performance lifts. And we've talked about this for a while and we've seen people out there do this, right? We've seen some big brands out there go and take, I think here's kind of one of the cool things, right? They've taken these huge stabs with actually giving up equity to huge influencers to then whitelist their content. If we think about like the Nike Playbook, if any of you guys have watched Shoe Dog, think about it. What Nike did was crazy. They basically made a bet on, and at the time, this was not like a normal thing to do, right? But they made this massive bet on Michael Jordan at the time and essentially whitelisted him as part of their brand over time, right? Back in the day, it was really difficult to do. And if anyone has not watched Shoe Dog or read Shoe Dog, you definitely have to read it. It is such a good book for any sort of entrepreneur. But it's the whole idea, this whole principle around whitelisting is why I love TikTok Shop so much, right? But it's being able to get that content, not having to pay $450 per UGC, which is just insane, right? Instead, getting it at scale from your TikTok Shop, requesting access to that content through whitelisted ads through a tool like Refundal. Again, I just bring up Refundal because I love Atif, and I think that he's building the things that I want him to build for our agency, selfishly, and then for everybody else in the market, right? I think that's the really cool thing. Let me go to a couple more things here. So why creator handle ads win? I think it's fairly obvious, but let me just make sure that everybody really understands why these creator handle ads win. So there is algorithmic social proof up at the top, right? You're borrowing trust. Actually, let's start at the bottom. Number one, you're borrowing trust from their following. So even if they don't have a massive following over on Instagram, which most TikTok people actually do have a decent following over on Instagram as well. Ones that have been around for a while, especially if you're working with any millennials, most of them have had a decent following over there. So you borrow all of that trust already, right? You can actually target their audience as well. So if, say they have like 100,000 followers over on Instagram, you can actually target that audience, which is great. There is tons of creative iteration that you can still do here on these channels. And then also my biggest recommendation is just like start working directly with them, create a relationship with them. Don't treat this like another like another performance channel with creators, right? I think that's one of the reasons why a ton of agencies out there just haven't done a great job, is because they don't understand how to create relationships with people that are out in the space doing this stuff, right? This is a huge relationship game. Now, here's the really cool thing. Again, we get into like this fresh targeting signals area. Some of these lookalike audiences can be great. If you like lookalike audiences, what I like is just creative iteration, right? I like these bigger creative ideas that we can test, right? And different, what do I want to call it? Like offers and angles and ways to talk about the product that are really interesting. Actually, interestingly, so I do like a tiny bit of brand consulting on the side. I'm actually launching a new thing, by the way, for people who are on here. I'm launching a new awesome thing called awesome. Of course, I would think it's awesome. Called e-commerce OS. If anyone's interested, DM me about it. Essentially, it's for brand owners up to about 5 million. That has education, community, daily calls, and all that sort of stuff. Because I've been doing one-on-one consulting for a while and realized like this can be done with a bunch of us, similar to like these kinds of calls that I do with you guys every once in a while. But anyway, if you're interested in e-commerce OS, send me a DM. I've had calls with a bunch of you guys. We're going to be launching in the next month. So it's super interesting. But let me tell you, a consulting client that I was working with and advising, I told them, I said, hey, why don't we just change up the offer? Like I think we've squeezed as much as we can out of what we're doing right now in Meta. Let's change up the offer. And so what we did is we actually went to a new offer that was this bundle. And the crazy thing is, I think the bundle was like overall like $10 off, but the average order value on the bundle was $140. But we just happened to hit Father's Day. Great. Now, they had done, I think their best month in total had been like 120K. Last 7 days, they've done 115,000. It's crazy. And all we did was just change up the offer and where we were sending the traffic. So this is what you can do when it comes to some of these influencers. You can start to think like, oh, maybe I'll create for this creator, for this influencer, I'll create a special bundle that's just for them and send it to their page. This is where you can start using a tool like Creator Commerce. The Super Affiliate has stuff like this built in as well, right? Where you can actually just send this traffic straight in to one of these co-branded landing pages. This is where you kind of like get to it on steroids. But the best way to do it is to whitelist it all, right? So that's one of the things that I just want to make sure you guys kind of understand when it comes to this. But a lot of things that we think, everybody wants to talk about Facebook ads all the time, right? Everyone comes to me to talk about Facebook ads and TikTok Shop, when in reality, it's the principled things behind all of it that actually do the heavy lifting, right? It's the actual, like the marketing, the story, the angles, all of those. And you get all of those. And this is why I'm obsessed with TikTok Shop. You get all of those tests through TikTok Shop, and you can start to see through leading metrics what is actually working and what is not, right? And so oftentimes at Social Commerce Club, the agency that I run, we'll start looking at the beginning, because especially at the beginning, it is a slog getting through your first, the 0 to 10K is really, really difficult. I just want everyone to know that is like the most difficult time, which again is another reason why we just launched something called TikTok Shop OS Plus. TikTok Shop OS Plus is we one-on-one meet with you guys once a week. We use all the resources that we have in-house to help you guys scale from that 0 to 100K in 6 months. It's a bit of a different way of doing things. But again, I'm just looking for all of these different ways of like, how do we help brands actually take advantage of all of this content that's coming through and this massive opportunity that I just haven't seen in years, right? I got into Shopify, I think it was like 2014, my first Shopify store. I sold hoverboards, which was very, very interesting. So yeah, it's a, being back then, I didn't realize what a massive opportunity being in direct to consumer was at that time. And I really believe that TikTok Shop is one of those about 10 years later now, I guess 11 years later. Man, time flies. So yeah, so that is kind of where I'm seeing all of this going. So it's really, really simple. I actually do have a couple more things that I want to talk to you guys about, but I want to sort of recap this area here. So really simple. Use TikTok Shop. Find the best posts that are either producing revenue at first, right? If they're not producing revenue at first, start to look for leading metrics. Leading metrics that I like to look at are click-through rate. I like to look at CPM as well, right, on ads. Lower CPMs always tell me that something is the algorithm, the platform likes it more, right? So when the algorithm or the platform likes it more, it's going to reward you with lower CPMs, because the point of the platform is to keep people on as long as possible. They don't want to show ads that people hate. They want to show ads that people actually like, right? So that is the point of the platform. It will reward you always with lower CPMs. So just remember that. All right. Here is what your cross-channel content engine looks like. So let me just sort of like wrap this sort of part up here, and then I've got a couple more things. So please make sure to stick around for a couple more things here. So we have TikTok creation. Again, why do I like TikTok content so much? To me, TikTok shop content is like, it's called a Rubicon, if you guys have ever heard of it. Jeep had a Jeep Rubicon. I never knew what it was called. I remember I was a paramedic back in the day. For 12 years, actually. And I remember this, like, one paramedic was telling me about a Rubicon. And I was like, why are you using such a dumb word? But I've used it ever since because I think it's really interesting. A Rubicon is essentially a door that you can go through one way, but you can't come back through. I picture TikTok like that, right? TikTok content travels really well out, but content from other places does not, right? It does not work coming back into TikTok, which is why I'm obsessed with TikTok Shop, right? Because you create this incredible content over here on TikTok Shop that then leads over into these other areas and these other channels. That's why it needs to start on TikTok, because it's the best possible content. You know, like when you're watching ads on, I love to watch YouTube, right? That's where I understand all like different things that I'm kind of interested in. And I'm always finding really, really great ads, specifically on shorts. I'm finding some incredible ads, and I know that they were created on TikTok. It's like, well, of course, this worked on TikTok. Then they used it over here. Awesome, right? That is what we need to be doing as brands these days. So we have TikTok creation over here. TikTok creation leads to us identifying which ones actually work. That's where we're going to use a tool like Refundal to actually identify those videos. We're then going to whitelist those videos onto other platforms. Again, for Meta, they've got a really simple one-click whitelist where you can communicate back and forth. And then also, one of my recommendations is take that and start to test it organically, right? If you're okay with other people being on your organic handles, if you can try to get permission to use those and post them organically, that is awesome too, right? And post them organically across other channels. I do that with just my personal content all the time. I go and post it on other channels. Sometimes I'll get like 10,000 views on YouTube and it'll get like 5 views on TikTok. It's just good to try on these different channels, right? It's one of the sort of hacks that I highly, highly recommend. All right, here's the 30-day implementation playbook, right? So audit audit your creators, right? Take a look at which creators you have. Take a look at which creators are your most engaged partners that are posting a lot, that are actually getting good results, some top of funnel results and maybe some bottom of funnel results. Again, I would start with bottom of funnel if people are getting really good purchases and a huge amount of them. I would try and get them onto another platform. Now, one of the caveats here that I didn't really dig into is I did a little bit, but what you're going to want to do is you're either going to have to pay them a flat fee to use the content somewhere else, or you can actually pay them a percentage, right? So if you just be like, hey, look, we'll set up an affiliate deal where you get 3% of everything that comes in, right? That's another really, really great one. One thing actually beyond this slide that I just want to talk about quickly, I think that there's something else really interesting, and this is in something, again, that Atif has built in Refundal. And the reason why I like Atif so much is just because I think that he sees where the ball is going, similar to where I think I do too. And so one of the things that he is building out right now is a pay per CPM model, which I think is really, really powerful. So essentially, you're paying people just based on the amount of impressions that they get, because at the end of the day, that is what you're paying for on every single platform. And so if you can CPM arbitrage, so essentially, let's say on Meta right now, $15 is the average CPM. Well, if you can pay $3 for a CPM for an influencer to post organically, you are way ahead. You're just arbitraging the difference between those two, which is a really, really big difference. So anyway, that was just an extra one in there. They have those capabilities. Again, Atif and I talked about this. Please build this out. He did. Okay. So again, Audit Creators, whitelist your top 3, right? If you could just start with 3. The reason I'm saying 3, normally I'd be like, whitelist your top 10. Just do 3 and check it off the list, right? And what you are going to see is you are going to see those perform incredibly well, especially top of funnel, right? Those will be incredible top of funnel ads versus, so if you're having a frequency issue right now on Meta, right? A huge amount of that will be solved by whitelisting. Like, I have zero doubt that a huge amount of that is going to be solved by whitelisting. We are seeing it at Social Commerce Club. Again, like I said before at Social Commerce Club, this is something that we're doing with all brands, right? Everyone who comes in, unless they're like a massive brand that has an agency that it's impossible not to work with. We are saying like, hey, come in, work with us across all channels because it is an ecosystem that works all together. Repurpose some of these templates. This is the other thing too, right? If you're finding a winning ad and like templatize it, right? Use ChatGPT, be like, put the URL in, be like, hey, can you tell me what this template exactly is? And then give that to other creators to create. The other thing too is I just like working with really great creators who are creative and can like think like, how can I sell this thing? And that's why I love TikTok Shop so much. So yes, those are a couple things, and then start to launch some tests, right? Allocate. I like to think of the 20% rule, right? Google did a really good job of this over the years. 20% of your time can be allocated to new things. I like that with budget too. The whitelisting, I would start to creep up a lot faster, right? You could start to put some of these whitelisting ads if you're running just like a straight Advantage Plus campaigns, just throw them in. I will bet you that they will start to get the majority of your spend in that Advantage Plus campaign. If you're running more like the CBO style, the CBO with multiple ad sets within there, then start to put them into their own ad set. I'll bet you that ad set's going to start to get the majority of the budget. Just note that like this is incredibly scalable, and I've seen it scale over time, which is why, again, at Social Commerce Club, we are so obsessed with this. Awesome. I just wanted to see, are there any questions from anybody out there right now? I've got Google Meet open, and then I've also got Riverside open here. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this. I will just wait a couple of minutes to see. And I am on the right chat right now on Riverside, just so you guys know. Are there any questions coming in about this? Does this make sense? I didn't have any time in between for coffee, and so it's gone cold, everyone. I just want to let you know this is cold coffee, not on purpose cold. All right. If there are no questions, I'm just going to go back to Google Meet and just make sure that there are no questions over there. And if there are no other questions, we are going to wrap up right there. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful for you guys. Yeah, no questions over there. Thanks. A bunch of you guys joined. It was really, really great to have you guys here. If there's no other questions, we are going to wrap it up there. Again, for e-commerce OS, you can actually go to ecommerceos.co and go check it out. That's a bit of a like sort of beta page right now, but also feel free to get a hold of me on either LinkedIn or Twitter, and I will let you know some of the details of what e-commerce OS looks like. We'll be taking on our first 20 brands by the end of the summer. It's going to be an incredible community. I've thought about like the best groups that I've been a part of, but more of an actual, like rather than like just a Slack community, it's actually going to be a community where we talk back and forth. I'm going to do a webinar actually on e-commerce OS because I think there's such a great opportunity for a bunch of you guys to join. Again, the first 20 brands I'm going to be letting in by the end of the summer. Super, super excited about that. I'll let you guys know kind of what that looks like when we get to it. But thanks so much, everyone, for joining. It was really great. And let me know again, hit me up on school if you guys are in school. And if you're not in the school community, go check out the TikTok Shop Elites Mastermind. Go check that out. That is where we're dropping all sorts of stuff in there at all times. So, and I've got a bunch of training stuff as well. Great.